Thank you, Bryce. Welcome, everybody, to this Sunday morning service here at Salt and Light Christian Church. The story I have for you all this morning is from Acts chapter 27 and 28, the story of Paul's shipwreck on the island of Malta. And so, at this time, we see that Paul had gone before King Agrippa and had pleaded his case to Rome and had requested basically to go before Caesar to plead his case as a Roman citizen. That was his right. And so Paul was sent as a prisoner on a prisoner ship with a bunch of other prisoners and Roman soldiers to go to Rome. And on their way there, they sailed to Crete, about a halfway distance between where they left from and going to Rome. And they stayed in Crete for a time to resupply and to rest. However, a great storm was coming, and Paul tried pleading with them and to get them to stay in Crete to withstand the winter. However, the soldiers, wanting to get to Rome, being in a hurry, decided to set sail anyway. And they ended up getting caught in this massive storm over the Mediterranean Sea. And their ship was tossed and brought way off course by the waves. And for 2 weeks, they were stuck in this mighty storm that was slowly destroying their ship. And at the end of this 2 weeks, they noticed, as it was night, in the middle of the night, they noticed that they were approaching land. And so they ended up anchoring their ship so as not to crash into anything. And when dawn came, they saw that they were near an island and there was a small beach. And so they attempted to sail their boat to this beach to beach their ship and where they could do repairs before they went to Rome. However, as they attempted to sail into this small cove, this little beach on the island, they ran into a reef, and the boat became stuck in the rocks, and they were unable to move it. And so they abandoned ship, and they went ashore. And as Paul and all of the soldiers and other prisoners went ashore, they met the natives of the island of Malta. And here, the natives welcomed them with kindness and hospitality. And the leader of the island, the chief, put up the soldiers and the prisoners together on his own land while they were there on the island. And shortly after they had crashed on this island, as they were being taken care of, they were around a fire. And Paul had gone out to gather firewood. And he came back with a load of firewood, his arms full of a bunch of sticks, and he dropped the load into the fire. And as he did so, he noticed, as well as all the people around him, noticed that there was a viper hanging from the back of his hand that had bit him. And Paul, noticing it, shook the viper off into the fire as well. However, the people of the island of Malta recognized this snake as being very dangerous, very deadly. And so they believed that, well, this confirmed that Paul had to be a terrible criminal, that he escaped the judgment of the sea only to be bitten by this poisonous viper. So they assumed that justice was running its course. However, Paul felt no pain. Paul felt no effects from this viper's bite. They waited for quite a while to see if he would puff up and get bloated, or if he would just drop dead, as often people did after being bitten by these snakes. But neither happened to Paul. And he was miraculously healed, never even afflicted in the first place by this snake bite. And so the people changed their minds pretty quickly. And at first, they thought of Paul as a god coming and showing these miracles. But Paul, as he did, quickly nipped that in the butt and began preaching the gospel to the people of Malta. As he did so, he heard of the chief's son who was ill. And so he had the son brought to him, where Paul prayed over him in the name of Jesus and laid hands on the child, and he was healed of his afflictions. And after this, the people of Malta began bringing all of their sick and diseased to Paul, and he continued to heal each and every one of them while he shared the gospel to the people. And we know to this day, the people of the island of Malta celebrate the day in February that Paul was shipwrecked on their island and the gospel was brought to their shores. We see from this story the power that preaching the gospel has. We see that they have a lineage going back thousands of years to the very moment that Paul brought the gospel to their island and to their people, and that they were saved. And from that beautiful lineage, we can see the awesome testimony of Christians going back through the generations all the way to Paul. You also have that lineage, even if you can't trace it back. As Christians, we have a lineage of testimonies going all the way back to the apostles and to Christ. And it is only through the spreading of that gospel that we can create and spread more Christians. So I encourage you today to take the gospel with you throughout your walks and to spread the message of Christ. Thank you. Let's bring the music up.